Hey y'all, so I've been asked a few times if I have any videos from start to finish on doing my acrylic blanks with my Crystalac products. So I figured I'd finally take the opportunity to start recording content for that. Now, Crystalac does have a new product called Coverall, which I was using, but here recently, about a month after having it, I started noticing some issues, and so I reached out to them, and it turns out there have been like a few bottles, not very many, that have had some problems. So for this video, I'm not going to be doing the coverall. I'll just be doing some sanding, which is a perfect opportunity for me to really test this out. It has the 3M marking. I threw away the packaging a long time ago, and really I had gotten these for like putting my other sandpaper like over it just to like give me a better grip. But these have a different texture, and I can't remember what they were called. I think they might have been called like Sand Blaster or something like that. I know this one is 180 grit, but to me, whenever I did kind of test it out a little bit, it doesn't leave your surface feeling like very rough, so that made me kind of nervous. And I normally like a pretty rough surface when I sand my acrylics, especially like at my edges, because I don't want my glitter mixture whenever I go into glittering to pull away from those edges. But I recently tested it out. Let me grab it actually. I just recently glittered this piece, and I used this, and it like the acrylic still felt somewhat smooth. Like if I scraped my nail, I could feel a difference than what it feels like on the opposite side. But it just doesn't feel very rough. But I was like, well, I'm gonna just go ahead and try it, and it actually like did pretty well. So, and it didn't take much for me to sand. Like I didn't even have to do a lot of pressure. And it seemed like it did really well. So I'm going to use that for this one that I'll be doing the start to finish video on, but also because I'm not too concerned, since now for some I am wanting to do more of like where I paint my acrylic first and then do a glitter coverage, to where I don't have to do like as much glitter and it can kind of dry faster. However, like with the Flippin Awesome Paints by Crystalac, you do have to allow this to dry 4 hours. Let me kind of zoom out a little bit because I feel like I'm really zoomed in. You do have to let these dry for 4 hours, and then you can go on with whatever else you're going to do. So normally what I do is I sand, like if I'm going to sand, I sand and then do my glitter mixed into my Crystalac Grand Finale, and put them on my blanks, and I let them dry overnight. But if I paint first, allow it to dry 4 hours, and then do like maybe a lighter glitter coverage, I maybe could get by with just 2 hours of letting that glitter dry, maybe at the most 4 hours. So that's going to be more beneficial, obviously, like on the days that I have like all day that I can be like working on items. But otherwise, like letting stuff dry overnight doesn't bother me, because I a lot of times only can work on stuff like maybe twice a day. So I'm gonna try this out again, see how I like it, and I am going to try to make sure I do get towards those edges though. And I don't mean like these outer parts, I mean the top edges. just to make sure my paint, you know, bonds really well. Now, if it was just me going into glitter mixture, then, you know, that's where I always feel more concerned about, like I said, having it like a rougher scuff sand. So, and I'm really not applying a lot of pressure, but I'll see, hopefully you can kind of see what it looks like. Because it won't really look like rough. So see, it's almost hard to tell, but like when I rub my fingernail, like I can feel it, like that it's not super slick like it normally would be when you take the paper backing off. And I probably don't even need to go this long because I'm just not used to it, and I don't know, it's just weird to me that it's not like super rough. But I'm guessing like it's sanded. So I'm just going to make sure I've got all my areas. Okay. And then you just want to clean off like any dust. And what I do notice about these and what I like about them is you don't get... Okay, so my previous video like cut off while I was recording, but what I was saying was what I like about these is I do notice that you don't get as bad of like a sanding dust like you do with regular sanding paper. So, and I guess like some of the dust kind of goes into some of these pores. I don't know, like I just noticed it's not as like dusty whenever I'm using those. So after you sand your acrylic, you obviously just want to clean it off, make sure it's dry. And then I had already stirred this because I thought the video was recording, but you stir your paint if it's been sitting a while. And what I do love about Crystalac products is, you know, they're non-toxic, they're water-based. So like with their paints, if any of your paints ever dry out, I like to put a piece of plastic under my lid just to help prevent that. There have been some where I didn't do that and some of the paints did start to dry out, and all I had to do was just add little bits of water at a time and they were good to go again. So so I'm going to be doing this slate gray, and then I'll be using Glitter Heart Co. I think there's something under here. Glitter Heart Co. Black Beauty Glitter, and it's like a rainbow black. So I'm just kind of getting a little bit of a dark base before I glitter. And this isn't normally what I do. I just want to start, you know, maybe trying some new techniques and seeing if I like base painting first for some of them, and, you know, being able to go with a lighter coverage on glitter. So now after you get your paint on, this paint will also basically like self-level. I'm kind of like heavy-handed, so a lot of times I go heavy with anything that I'm doing, even sometimes like my top coats. But I like that, you know, Crystalac products seem to be very forgiving, and it's pretty hard to like mess up with their stuff, for me anyway. And I'm a lazy crafter, so that's probably why I go a little bit heavy-handed. In some ways, I'm a lazy crafter. That way I don't have to like necessarily try to go back and do another coat and that kind of thing. So now normally you'll just want to give this 4 hours of dry time when you use their Flippin' Awesome paints, but if you go like super heavy, like, then obviously give it a little bit more time. So I'm gonna let this dry for 4 hours and then we will do some glittering. All right, y'all, so now we're back. This is fully dried. It actually dried longer than 4 hours because I'm a night shift nurse, so I ended up having to go to work. So this has dried for quite a while. But as you can see, for the most part, it leveled out. It doesn't really matter though, because I'm going to put glitter over it anyway. So it doesn't have to be like super smooth. It is a little bit chilly in my room, so I'm going to use my heat gun to lightly just kind of warm up my bottle a little bit. And you don't want to overheat your bottle if you do this. You can also set it in like a cup or jar of like warm water to kind of get the chill off. I just use the heat gun and I, do like a moving motion, and if I start to feel it getting too warm, I'll kind of pull my heat gun back further. So I'm gonna warm this up real quick. Okay, and I just take some of the chill off of my bottle, just so that my product is not too cold and doesn't, kind of create more bubbles and that kind of thing. And let me peel off the parts that have dripped down. All right, and like I said, we're going to use Glitter Heart Co. Black Beauty. I'm getting kind of low, so that's why I kind of want to be doing this technique also, where I paint the acrylics first to see about minimizing, how much glitter I use. Although I'm still trying to adjust, like, to a lighter ratio because I'm so used to just doing it full glitter. So, and I honestly don't mix too fast. I mean, it maybe looks like I am, but I'm not. I kind of just like to let the glitter, start to soak into the product, and I just sort of like, do this motion, like a folding motion, just to minimize creating more bubbles than what you want to have. And this is actually kind of a coarse glitter. So, I do try to make sure it gets nice like wet into this grand finale. Because it is a little bit more of a coarse glitter. But it did quickly become one of my favorites. I love this rainbow black that they have. Okay, so hopefully this is enough. It should be. Okay, and then hopefully I'm in good view here. And then I just go ahead and pour some onto the blank, or in this case I can tell I'll be able to pour it all. Oh, I actually wanted to try something else, but I already poured the glitter. I'll have to try it in another tutorial. So because it's painted, on some of my other ones that I've kind of played around with, that I use paints on, it will sort of pull away from the edges because it's paint and it's not really like you know, it sort of dries a little bit smooth. And I'm pretty big on liking my glitter to stay like nice and put along my edges. So I was going to try like maybe just using the coverall or a very, very light amount of glitter glue and like warming up the glitter glue, like to dry it with the heat gun a little bit just to make it tacky, to see if it helps keep my mixture, you know, like really well along those edges. But this will still look fine. It's not going to be super noticeable anyway. And then so you just want to spread your mixture, get your entire area covered, and then it'll just self-level on its own while it's drying. Now I think I can maybe use just a tad bit more. Let me see if I can tell if it's really covering everything pretty good. Okay, looks like it's actually pretty even all the way around. Let me hold that up for you so you can see it a little bit better. And I'll bring the light over a little bit more so you can kind of see that. And then so I'm going to check this. I'll have some time. I got a late start today, so I'll have some time to check this before I need to go to work. I'm gonna see how it is in about 2 hours. I feel like I did, you know, a light enough coverage that in 2 hours this may actually be okay. But I would probably feel safer with at least giving glitter mixtures like this 4 hours of dry time if I do like a light coverage like this. So I will come back and we'll see how it is in a couple of hours before I have to go to work tonight. I'm trying to get this to be more along the edges. I don't know why I'm so OCD about that. It's probably not even like a big deal. Like, people probably don't even really notice, but I do. It gets on my nerves. And actually, like, while it's drying a little bit more, you can still come in and do this, like, just by the edges. So that's another, like, option if you see some product pulling away. But when it's, like, super wet, it's a little hard to make it stay. But, okay. We'll check on this in a couple hours. Alright, y'all, so I am the worst at trying to do this whole start to finish tutorial. I didn't get to check this after the 2 hours before I went to work. I got distracted and then ran out of time and wasn't going to have time to like record and do a top coat if it was ready. But basically what you want to do is you want to just kind of, you know, lightly touch, very lightly, to see if it, you know, if it's feeling dry. And if it does feel dry, like it feels like you could, you know, rub your finger over it, then you'll want to like get your fingernail or just get something to kind of lightly press in. And if it feels like really soft, like as if you can easily kind of dig your nail into it, then you want to allow it to dry more. So I really wish I had, you know, not gotten so distracted and checked this. So this has been already dry for like I think maybe 2 days now because I started getting busy with some other orders, and I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up while I talk. And so I started getting busy with some other orders, and had to get some orders packaged and all that. So yeah, so I got distracted with that. So now we are going to be doing our first top coat, and also the OCD in me is just not letting this go. So everywhere pretty much like did okay with staying at the edges. However, this end, which it may be a little bit hard to tell, like right here, like kind of up here, and then right at the corner, I can see, you know, like where it has the gray paint. You might be able to see it. Okay, like now you might be able to see it with me angling it a little bit better. That right there is literally like, I can't get it out of my head. I keep looking at it, like I just focus on it. So I am going to lightly sprinkle some glitter, and it won't make a huge difference. Like once I do my top coat, I'm just going to put just a little bit, just to get that part covered because it's annoying me. So yeah, if you're like me, and I kind of see it a little bit over here too, but it's not really like as noticeable as it is here to me. But I may still touch up on, okay, because I'm seeing it there too. Anyway, I'm just like that. If it bothers me and I can't like not think about it or right away just keep staring at it, then yeah, I just won't stop thinking about it. I have to like do something about it. So anyway, now with your first coat, let me zoom out here because I am pretty close right now. So what I've noticed with the newer formula, which is the latest formula of Grand Finale, so they've had Grand Finale 1.0 or just like original, and then they came out with Grand Finale 2, or 2.0, I think is what they called it. And then there was just some issues last summer with like heat damage. So what I'm doing is I'm just gently moving my bottle around. If your bottle has been sitting for a little while, then you kind of just want to move the product around a little bit. So there was issues with heat damage during shipping last summer, and so they updated the formula to try to help minimize, you know, like that problem, and I am loving the newest formula. So I've been using it for a while now, and it is just working great. However, my tip that I'm going to give you is on your first coat over your dry glitter mixture, do not do like a flood coat. I used to be able to do that with the 2 previous formulas, and I wouldn't really have like issues with bubbles. However, with this one, I noticed with my first coat, especially for like coarser glitters, which this glitter is a little bit on the coarse side. If you flood coat it, then like once it dries, I notice like I get a lot more like bubbles, and they'll dry on my surface, and kind of like large ones, which I can just scrape them off. Like I now have this, I ordered like a blade set, and I tell you, I can sometimes be like a very lazy crafter. I hate sanding. So if you've seen some of my previous videos, I talk about how much I don't really like sanding, and I never sand like between coats. I just don't like it. And because I glitter this way, I don't really need to. But if I do ever have a bubble, even when I'm doing like top coats over vinyl and stuff, I now just kind of go carefully with like a blade like this and just shave the top of that bubble off, and then I'll continue on with my coats, and it basically takes care of the problem for me. But to avoid getting a lot of bubbles with your first coat, you're not going to want to do too much. So just kind of have it on the light side, like just a little bit. And what I suggest is like really like pressing it into the glitter, like work it into it, and let it get really into the glitter, where, because it's going to kind of start soaking it, you know, soaking into the glitter. So I just like kind of really press it in, and I just don't put too much on my first coat, and then by the second coat I'd go a little bit heavier, and by the third coat, that's when I can kind of flood coat it from there on out. I can go like with a heavier coat. So I just do this and I work it in, and since these little parts are bothering me, I'm going to go ahead and get some of that off and just kind of get some of this glitter on here, which I probably need to do it with my hand because I'm totally kind of missing where I'm trying to get it, and I don't want to have like too much. So I'm just gonna go like kind of along some of these edges here and get where it was like annoying me. And it won't be too heavy because I'm just lightly sprinkling a little bit. And let's see. See, now it's a little, it's more covered. I think I could get this corner just a little bit. Okay, so now this will need to dry for 2 hours. And I try to, sometimes like if I'm, you know, sitting at my desk, I'll try to remember like, you know, about 30 minutes or an hour after. If I see some immediate like bubbles like surfacing, I'll just get my fingernail and just kind of poke at it, and you know, just to keep it from it drying. But if you don't go too heavy, you shouldn't have like too many of those. So hopefully you can kind of see, like that's kind of how my glitter mixture is. It's pretty flat, you know, you're gonna have some little bumpies or whatever, but all that will start to fill in and smooth out like the more coats that you do. Okay, so let's go on to our second coat. Again, move your bottle around if it's just been sitting. And this one you can go with a little bit of a heavier coat. And let me just kind of show you. So see, I didn't end up getting like a, you know, dried bubbles or anything because I didn't go too heavy with that first coat. So I didn't have any issues with that. And then this one, you can go like maybe a little bit heavier and just work it in. You don't have to really press it in too much like on this one. I just kind of do that with that first coat. But just get it spread out, make sure everything is covered. And then let it dry again for 2 hours. Again, if you want to check on it in a, you know, like in about 30 minutes to an hour, you can, and see if you have any like bubbles immediately surfacing. And then just like pop them with your finger, like your fingernail. But you shouldn't have too many. And then by the third coat is where I'll show you how I like to just go ahead and use a brush. Once I get to basically my third coat, I pretty much just start using a brush, and I go somewhat kind of heavier with my coats. I'm not going to film every single coat. I just want to give you an idea of how I top coat them and the tips that I have for them until I get them smooth. well, smooth enough for vinyl anyway. I don't even have to like get them super duper smooth. Like, let me show you an example. This one, I can go ahead and start vinyl on. So even though it has a little bit of like some texture, because most of mine, I do like offsets and, you know, quite a bit of layering, these little bumps and stuff aren't really going to affect it. And let me grab some other ones I can give you another idea. So here are some examples of some that already have vinyl and have been either completely sealed or getting sealed. And as you can see, even with the top wording and the bottom wording not having any offset and just being a single layer, it was pretty much like this texture before I started doing some vinyl, and you don't really notice the texture. Well, actually, I guess you can't even see it at all. Same for this one. I'm still sealing this one though. Now, it does help if you use vinyl that, like, say how this one has an offset. My back piece, which is a white glitter vinyl, it's basically kind of a thicker vinyl, so it does help if you have your bottom piece be somewhat of a thicker vinyl so that you don't see some texture. So like this one, you can see a little bit of the texture on that gold. I am still sealing this, so it will end up kind of hiding a little bit more of that. But it doesn't look like horrible, especially when you kind of hold it straight out in front of you. It's more like noticeable when you're like sitting there and angling it like in like some kind of bright lighting. But for the most part, I noticed that that sort of textured look will eventually kind of start to clear up or go away. Now, again, it depends on the vinyl. So like, I probably should have used the white glitter vinyl, like what I used on this one, because of this holographic silver. It's kind of a thinner vinyl. So I'm not sure if the little bit of bumpy look is gonna kind of, you know, go away enough. But because it's so like rainbow-like, and when you look at it kind of straight on versus like this, and you know, it doesn't really like look that bad. And because of the heavy like color shifting in it, like the rainbow look, it honestly doesn't look terrible. So you really just will want to get used to like what vinyl works best over what, you know, like for hiding any like little imperfections like that, if you don't want to have to like get your glitter to be like extremely smooth. Now you can totally take the time and do all of that. Some glitters will be like, they'll get smoother a lot quicker or faster, and be easier to work with. So like metallic glitters, they get smooth like pretty quickly, or smooth enough anyway. So see, here's another like metallic one that when I do some vinyl and some layering, you shouldn't or wouldn't really see, you know, any of like the little bumps or whatever. So yeah, anyway, we're gonna let this dry for 2 hours and then we'll go into our third coat. Okay, so now let's get into our third coat. Here it is after the second top coat that I did, where I went just a tad bit heavier than the first. Not extremely heavy, but that's how it is after the second coat. And after I do this third one, I'm not going to film every top coat, but I will definitely keep track of how many I do before we get to our steps of putting on vinyl. So with this one, you can go, you can, you know, be kind of a bit more generous, especially because I do like to use these brushes. So let me kind of show you that a little better. You may have seen these in my other videos. And I get these off Amazon. They're very reasonable. I want to say they're like $8.99 for an 80 pack. So I absolutely love using these. They have been wonderful for me, like when I'm doing top coats and stuff. So I pour some product, and then I find that it works best for me, especially when you're going to do top coats over vinyl. This has been helpful to me. I like to soak my bristles into the product first, so you see it quickly soaks into that, and then I'll start to brush. For some reason, I noticed when I started doing that, I didn't have as many like bubbles. So you'll just go around, spread your product out, and if I do see some like immediate bubble surface, all I do is I get the corner of my brush and I just literally just go like that. I just flick them. So just get all your surfaces wet. Get along the edges, and then this will self-level. Oh, sorry, I got out of frame. And that's it. So I have the entire surface wet, and I just pretty much like right after I'll angle kind of at eye level, so that's what I'm doing right now, and just see if I see any, you know, bubbles that are immediately trying to surface, and then I'll just kind of tap them with the corner of my brush and flick them away, and that's that. So now this is just going to set again for another 2 hours, and then I'll go in with my next coats, and I just keep doing that. I can go, you know, pretty generous until I get to a decent enough, you know, texture. Like this one has been sitting and curing for a little while, so I may do one more fresh coat before I do vinyl, because it does help, you know, if you do vinyl sort of like soon after your last coat, because it will be a little bit more smoother and it hasn't like started to cure and, you know, leave you more texture. So I may do one more coat on this. I don't know. I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do for vinyl, but if you kind of know more or less if you're going to be doing layering and stuff, then that's where you'll kind of learn and know if, you know, you need your surface to be a little bit smoother. All right, guys. So I will continue with this, and I will let you know how many coats I end up doing over this before we get into vinyl. All right, y'all, so I did do an additional 4 coats on this. Now, again, I'm not going to worry about the texture because of how I layer my vinyl. If you want to sand, that's totally up to you, like between your coats. You can sand after like your 4th or 5th coat. Just make sure that it is a level sand, and you're not applying too much pressure to where you can risk scratching your glitter. So for me, like I said, I don't really worry about that because of how I layer my vinyl. Now I like to use this craft putty. I think it's called like Instant Tacky or something like that. Anyway, it just kind of helps hold my acrylic in place while I'm going to be placing my vinyl. And hopefully the way I have my camera, I won't be bumping it too much, and it's not going to be too much in my way. I'm always saving little scrap pieces of my transfer tape because I hate wasting product. So this person doesn't want the stethoscope, and actually let me kind of lift it up a little bit. You do want to make sure that when you're placing vinyl that you leave an edge for that, so that your top coats have somewhere on the acrylic to continue bonding to. You never want to bring your vinyl all the way to the edge, so you want to leave just a little bit. It doesn't have to be like a whole lot. I may have to hold this up just so I can see better. But this person doesn't want the stethoscope, so I'm going to just kind of center that as much as possible. This does have like the little notches for the stethoscope, but it's not like super obvious, so it won't look bad. Okay, so there's the little collar, neckline, whatever. And then we're going to do Scrub Life. Sorry if I'm not completely like in the middle there on your in your view. Okay, so this is my offset, and I might have went a little bit crooked with that, but it doesn't look too bad. And I'm hoping that this will look good against the teal and being against the black glitter, because I did this for a different one, but the background glitter was different, so the scrub word definitely stood out more. So I may recut this wording and get more of the blue to show, because the blue is kind of brighter. That way it stands out a little bit more. But I'm going to kind of look at it. Actually, that doesn't look too bad. I'm going to pause this real quick and see how it looks, kind of more at a straight ahead for me. Okay, I actually think I like that. I'm going to go ahead and leave it. And then let's see, we have a little heart. Now, I'm using Zindy holographic teal vinyl. I love their holographic vinyls. The only vinyl that was holographic that I had an issue with Zindy was their white. The like holographic sparkle doesn't stay once you start doing top coats, and I've even seen people in our group that have the same problem that use resin. So it's not necessarily an issue being that I use Crystalac Grand Finale. It's just the vinyl itself for some reason doesn't stay sparkly, and it's just the white. I don't have issues with any of their other ones. And this ombre one, it's from a set that I ordered off Amazon. I don't know how to say their name, but it looks almost like the word giraffe vinyl. So it came from that set. This silver holographic that I'm using is Tech Wrap, and it's like their rainbow silver. However, I've noticed I don't like the top coats, how they make this vinyl, the silver one, look. Though sometimes, and it's not all the time, and I think it sometimes has to do with if my transfer tape accidentally leaves like any type of residue, or I don't know if it's just the vinyl itself and Crystalac Grand Finale just not really, you know, doing well over it. But it sometimes gives a, like, I don't know, it just kind of, it won't look very shiny. It almost looks like little smudges or something. So what I'm going to start doing, because I have a whole roll of this stuff, is I have the Oracle 651 just clear transparent vinyl, so I'm gonna start putting this over anytime I use the silver. Okay, let me see if I can do this good on camera with this being in my face. And the fact that it's very clear and it's hard to see. I think I got that pretty good. And then we have hopefully I lined that up really good. If not, it should be good enough to like cover majority of it so that it doesn't look bad once I start top coats. Okay, so now we'll start top coats on this. I don't, oh, let me make sure I like the way this heart is looking. I don't know why it looks kind of smudgy or something. Okay, so I'm gonna actually recut this clear vinyl and redo that because I don't like that little kind of smudgy look. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so I changed my mind and decided to pull in some more of like this blue and down into the heart, so I'm doing that instead. So there we have our vinyl, and I'm just going to do this and get make sure it's pushed down good and get any like fingerprints or whatever off of, especially because I did that clear over the silver. So now we'll do some top coats. Okay, let me get my grand finale and a brush and we'll do that. Okay, so I have my brush. These are the kind of brushes I like to use. If you've seen my other videos, they are from Amazon, and I always just kind of do this number just to make sure I don't have, you know, any lint or you know, dust or something, but I do keep my brushes covered, so they usually don't, but I just make that a habit anyway. Okay, and then I have my bottle of Grand Finale, and I pour them in these smaller bottles. Again, just mixing it up a little bit or stirring it a little bit if you've had it sitting for a while. And then all you're gonna do, which hopefully you can hear me because I keep covering my phone here. Let me kind of move this, excuse my crazy desk. Okay. I just drop some at the center, and it can be a significant amount, you know, because I like to let the product soak into my brush bristles first, and then you just start spreading. Just work your way around, kind of like we did with doing top coats over just the glitter, till you get everything covered. And this is why you never want to have your vinyl completely to the edge. You want to have a little bit there so that when you're sealing in your vinyl, your top coat still has like a little bit of acrylic to bond to. And then what I do is I'll kind of just like glance at it a little bit, excuse me, and I'll look to see if I see any immediate bubbles surface, and I see one like right there, and I just like dab it and flick it a little bit. Sorry, I have to kind of get this out of frame because I'm trying to get a good look at it. And that's pretty much it. So I'll just continue doing my top coats that way. I'm gonna let it, of course, let it self-level, so I'll just let it sit and dry. I do place mine under like a tote that I have, like one of those large like storage totes. I have that on like another table over here, and I cover all of my acrylics that I'm top coating with that, and to help keep any, you know, like dust or lint or anything off of it. But there we go. So I'll keep track of how many coats I do, and to kind of give you an idea, since this is a layered vinyl one, this ombre glitter, it's sort of like a glitter texture. It is kind of like a thicker one, and the Zindy holographic is a little bit on the thick side. The silver holographic is pretty thin, but I have the teal or turquoise, whatever, holographic behind it, and then I have the clear on top. So overall, you know, it's a little bit thick as far as like my vinyl layers go. So yeah, so we'll see what kind of look I end up wanting to go for with this, because a lot of times I like to leave some vinyl texture, especially when it's like wording that's really standing out, because it just gives it some dimension, and I like the way that looks. So all right guys, we'll be back. Okay, so here it is after getting an additional 8 coats. Beautiful, beautiful gloss. That's what I love about Grand Finale, and the clarity is always absolutely gorgeous. So all in all, this received 9 coats. Technically didn't need that last one. I just had accidentally picked it up and put product on it while I was doing top coats on other ones. So it got a total of 9 coats. But really it's preference. If you want to purposely leave some vinyl texture like I like to do sometimes, you know, it's really up to you. I would say at least seal in your vinyl with at least 5 coats, maybe 6 coats if your vinyl is, you know, like on the thicker side, like some of these were that I used. And if you're going for like a really, really smooth look, then you will find it better to go ahead and sand directly over the vinyl, lightly though. You don't want to risk scratching it or anything, and then cleaning it off and continuing on with your coats until, you know, it's very smooth, if that's, you know, what you want to do. Now here I'm cleaning up my edges. I do like to make sure that my X-Acto knife is facing towards the side that has been glittered and top coated. I find that it's easier for me to clean up, and I don't accidentally, you know, slide off the blank and like scratch the side that was top coated. So I just feel like I clean up better, you know, that way. Totally up to you how, you know, whatever works best for you. And then in the crevices, like in the corners and stuff, I just will like kind of scrape towards the corners, and where the product is built up, it'll like kind of come together, like when you just scrape towards the corners, and then you can just push it away and it comes right off. So the longer you let these like cure on the sides though, where you have any spillover, the harder it's going to be. So I recommend you know, maybe scraping some off in between your coats, if this is kind of a hard thing for you to do, just so that, you know, the product is not as hard and it's still kind of soft enough for you to easily scrape it off. I actually find this step like very satisfying. Like, I love doing this. I don't know why. It's just something that I don't know, I love doing it. So this step like never bothers me. And again, with using a brush, it gives you, to me, it gives you a little bit more control and less spillover. Not all the time. Sometimes I'm still kind of messy and I will still, you know, spill over the edges or get in those corners a lot, even when I'm using a brush. Like, because I am more heavy-handed with my top coats, so I do kind of go on the heavier, thicker side. So sometimes I'll accidentally angle it like while I'm holding it, and it, you know, will spill over a little bit, but it's really easy to just, you know, scrape it off and clean it up with an X-Acto knife. Just be very careful. Keep your thumb, you know, away, your fingers away, you know, from the direction that you're scraping in, and keep, you know, from cutting yourself. So I will show you now how the final product looked while, like, after I attached it to a badge reel and everything. But hope this video helped. Sorry for, you know, not recording sideways completely all the way through. I will maybe try to do another start to finish and hopefully have a better recording. But if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and thanks for watching.